on the emotional aspect of it. This more of a physiological reaction, or this more of a eternal response to trauma or some things that affected you from the external parts of life, like maybe you didn't get credit, or maybe someone broke your heart, or maybe someone in your head that stopped you from getting past what happened.
Um, Now, did you say eternal or external before?
Well, I'm saying in terms of the emotional part, is it something that's internal? Like
Oh,
it
internal. Okay,
starts
yeah.
from some, yeah, something that affected you from the outside, but it cuts you deep on the inside, and because of what happened on the outside, maybe job related, maybe just something. It could be anything, a distraction, TV,
Right.
whatever. It forced you to kind of emotionally check out from what your goal or your mission was. Is that the same thing? Is that blockage, or is that just distraction?
Both. It can be both, or it can be either. And this is why it's so important to really check in with your emotional well-being and figure out what's going on, because your emotional well-being is going to dictate everything else. People make decisions based on emotion and then figure them out with logic. And by taking the time to understand how you react emotionally, what your internal feelings are doing, the term is called interoception. It's the perception of your internal ongoings, the way that you feel inside. And it's a binary state, meaning it's going to be one of two things. It's either going to be safe or not safe. And if it's safe, then you're more likely going to have the creative process um, funneling through. Inspiration is going to become much more accessible. So when you get even a moment of feeling unsafe, it shuts down. You're cut off, and you no longer have that inspiring or that exciting feeling rushing through you to let you know that anything is possible. The right now is all that matters. And there are varying degrees of how this happens. You can feel unsafe in regards to how you express yourself because of whatever it might be. It could be childhood stuff that is coming up that is making you feel like you have a fear of rejection, which is the most pervasive and the most common fear that is available that people experience. It could be that there's something else going on that has created a sense that no one's going to want to listen to you. So either imposter syndrome or a fear of abandonment comes about. Even in the smallest quantity, these are things that can really throw a person off their game. And it's important to really get to the bottom of this, to understand what it is, and then come back to the point of, why do I not feel safe right now? What is it about this experience that does not make me feel unsafe? And then if you can either figure it out yourself or can find someone to help you work through that, fantastic, because then you have the ability of getting back to that point of safety. And safety, as I've talked about in a different podcast with you, is the understanding that yes, you are protected and you will continue to be protected over a long period of time. And because of that, there's nothing that can really harm you. Now, just because there's nothing out in your external environment doesn't mean there isn't anything up here that can be a trigger for feeling unsafe. And that's why it's important to do an internal check-in to figure out what that is, be able to understand what you're feeling, and have a way of being able to turn those feelings into words. Because the part of our brain that's responsible for our feelings, that's responsible for the flood of feelings that happens in our body, is not the same place where we have logical conversations or where we think logically. Two different parts of the brain. And the part that thinks with emotion doesn't understand language. And the part that understands language doesn't necessarily appreciate emotion. And so it's important to learn how to build a bridge of being able to associate words with emotions, or words with feelings, so that you can say, so that when you have this queasiness in your gut, or when you have this sense of disinterest, this sense of shutdown, you have a way of being able to say, oh, I'm feeling anxious, or I'm feeling uneasy, I'm feeling checked out, I'm feeling like I'm not um, I'm not motivated. And so then being able to understand why and put words to those as well. Because what you can name, you can control. And if you can control your emotions, then you have the ability to not only stop the progression of negative emotions, but then also flip the script so that you create a positive emotional response that once again flips on the inspiration and motivation to be able to move forward, so that you can continue with whatever it was that you were doing that got shut down.
Excellent assessment. Something that's very underrated. Our mental health is probably one of the least checked on parts of us that we pay close attention to. That right there alone is something that we should really be focused on a daily basis. Say hi to yourself.
Agreed.
Are you happy with yourself? Did you feed yourself properly? Did you read anything that was going to be inspiring to you? What are your muses? What are your triggers? What motivates you? What puts you in places of uncomfortability? Why does one thing work over the other? Why do you react one way to this and react a different way to that? And you've already pretty much covered that part. But I want to say, when we ignore this, you end up in result getting this backwash of regurgitated ideas and things that you want to implement, but it's kind of just staring you back in the face, and it has nowhere to go because you've innately sealed yourself off from even viewing the opportunities to see anything further than what you've already attached yourself to. Out the comfort of staying stuck, making excuses for staying stuck, and not really trying to understand or figure out why you're stuck. Just, okay, this is all I'm going to do for right now. I can't think of nothing else, so I'll come back to this later on, or maybe I won't get done what I need to get done in this conversation. So instead, what I'll do is I'll gaslight, and I'll try to rephrase things to kind of get out of getting to the core root of the problem. Or you really just don't have the same passion or the desire to do what you say you want to do. Because if you really want it bad enough, if you're really truly on a course of discovery, I really feel that you will go the extra mile to figure out exactly what is going on inside of you, so that you can kind of overcome that, and in turn get the results out of it that you want. But not really doing the self-evaluations is definitely a detriment. uh Looking at the people that you surround yourself with, how you react to them, how you react to your emotional instability, understanding why you're unstable, where is it coming from, uh why are you so easily affected by what others think about what you got going on? What are you really planning? Do you have a set mission, a set goal moving forward? Monday, I'm gonna do this. Tuesday, I'm gonna do that. Wednesday, are you implementing healthy ways to keep yourself balanced and focused to where you can't be distracted by the outside noise?
So one thing to keep in mind with what you've said is that it's great to have a plan as long as the plan feels right. And you can have this idea of this is what I have to get done. But if there's a part of you that's saying, that doesn't feel right, and you ignore that and you do it anyway, you try to go through it anyway, all that's going to happen is that you're going to essentially just shoot yourself in the foot. Excuse me, because you are not honoring who you are. You are not honoring that part of you that's inside that's saying it doesn't feel right. I don't resonate with this. This does not align. And so you're trying to force energy to move that's not there. And so you end up in a power struggle with yourself, which means that you are divided. And anytime that you are personally divided, you can't do anything. Everyone knows that the most powerful force is a unified force. And anything that divides that weakens that force. So if you have it's good to start with something and then proceed with it and then see how it feels. When you try it on, that's an expression I use with a lot of my clients, is try this on to see how it feels. And then if it feels right, go with it for a little while and go with it until it no longer feels right. And then find out where the disconnect lies. When it stops feeling right, find out why. Then once you figure out what that why is, you have an opportunity to either resume doing what you were doing or figure it out what else is best to do or what is better than what you were doing before. And keep doing that until it changes again, until you figure out that it's no longer serving you. Because eventually you're going to come across the thing that's like, yes, this is what drives me. This is feeling absolutely right. And it could be the thing that you said I didn't want to do in the first place because you believed that you were supposed to be doing something else when it never really aligned. And I can use myself as an example because I have done that so many times in my own life. I feel like I'm an expert at it, where I have gone off and tried to do something like content marketing, like doing sales for someone else for a product that I didn't necessarily believe in, or for a company that didn't align with me. But I figured, I really just need to do this because I need to have a job, and I know that I work best from home, so I'm just going to do it, and I'm just going to fake it till I make it. Hate that expression. And every single time, without any irregularity, it comes up where my energy just shuts way down. Where I get that mental block, I get that emotional block. And I used to be the kind of person where I would get very frustrated. Why can't I do this? Why is it I can't make myself do what I want to do? Well, it turns out that what I want to do isn't in alignment. And there's no way that you can get into alignment with something that is naturally out of alignment. When it's out, it's out. And you might be able to do something for a little while that's out of alignment, but long term, you will never have the ability to do it at long term or at scale. So eventually you burn out because you are forcing yourself to do something that you just aren't meant to do. So then it's time to reassess, figure out what is not working, or why am I feeling the way that I am? Either one of those questions will help give you a clue. It'll send you on that right path. If you feel like you're betraying yourself, or that you're selling out, or anything that makes you feel negative, that that you're not being true to yourself, that is a huge indicator to really pay attention to what you're doing and why it's making you feel that way. And there's a really good exercise I like to take my clients through. It's called the 4 R's. And what this does is it helps people to really understand what they're going through, why they're going through it, where it comes from, and how to move forward. So the first R is recognize. And this is recognizing the emotion that you are experiencing in this moment, either as it's happening or just after it's happened. Being able to recognize it, which means you have to be able to name it. So you have to find a way of being able to create some kind of naming system to the feelings that you have. There's many out there online. There are many things that you can do to do that. The second thing you want to do is you want to reflect. And the reflection is, where was the last time this showed up where it was useful? And I've said before that people only do things when there's a reason to do them, even if that reason is false or imagined. And there was something in a person's past, whether it be recent past or deep past, that they learned to use this behavior, or they learned to act in this way because it was the only way they were able to either get the attention that they needed or in some way, quote unquote, survive. And by survive, I mean cope well enough with their reality until something better comes along. And so they do that as habit. But after a certain amount of time, especially when we've become adults, we have access to more resources than we did as children. We have more agency, the ability to do things on our own will because we want to. And yet we still sometimes reenact these old behaviors, and they no longer work. And so it's important to understand what you're feeling and when the last time that this was useful. And then really, and this is something that some of my clients at first have a hard time accepting. Once you've recognized and you've reflected on when this was last useful, you want to understand what made that useful and then thank yourself, that younger version of yourself, for doing that because it was necessary at that time. And what you did back then was good because it was necessary, it was needed. And what you can do after that is you can then return to the present. And you can, this is the third R, which is return. It's understanding that where you are right now, you have different resources at your disposal, which means that the past behaviors aren't useful any longer. And because they're not useful, there might be something else that can be done that'll be more useful. And figuring out what that is for that moment, replacing it with something else in the present. And then what you want to do is you want to restory. And by restory, what I mean is take that new idea, that new behavior that you want to make normal, and future cast it so that it becomes something that you look into the future and say, as I do this, these things are going to happen. As I continue this new behavior, these kinds of things are going to change. My outlook on life and the experiences that I have and the way that I react or respond to things is going to change because I've changed the way that I am interacting with my world. So, again, the 4 things are: recognize the emotion, reflect on where it came from, return to the now and understand how things are different, changing the behavior that you want to exhibit now, then restoring it for the future so that as you move forward in your life, you can recognize how things have changed because of the intention that you've set.
That was that was a handful right there. I actually 1000% agree. 1000% agree. A lot of our outcomes and our setbacks are because of the lack of work and discipline that we've done on ourselves. Where is the root? There's always a root to the reasoning behind your maneuvering, the way you speak, talk, walk, whether or not you're whether or not a person can control the climate of your day, whether or not you can make course decisions in who you decide to lay with or have as a friend, or dealing with career choices. It all really comes back to you. We can all blame everybody for who we chose to deal with. We can blame them for our emotional attachments, how we respond to them lying to us or cheating on us. We can blame other people for why we didn't go forward with the promotion, or we didn't write that essay, or we didn't have the conversation we should have had 10 years ago. What you said, man, I thought about that a lot. I've always found myself in situations where I had to look at me. It's always anytime you get into any type of entanglement mentally or spiritually or emotionally, it always comes back to you. And a lot of times, I find that what happens is people are so frightened, or are scared that the results that they might find when they decide to start digging and lifting up that rug and start pulling them skeletons out, people are so scared to deal with them that they would rather just keep it buried and try to move on with their life, but understand that if you don't deal with your ego and your attitude, and you don't figure out why you don't know how to talk to somebody properly, or you don't understand why you're not getting where you, if you don't go down that road, you're just going to continue to go in a spin cycle of repetition. You're just going to keep, and I know I've said this before, you're just going to keep doing the same things over and over and over again. And then you're going to be frustrated, and you're going to keep on wondering why this is happening over and over and over again. So this is really more about you facing you dealing with you than anybody else.
And that's really all that the mental blocks are is an inability or a refusal for you to really deal with you. It's the ignoring of those signals, those thoughts that you're talking about, or those experiences, the things that you have the experiences and the circumstances that you've had that have contributed to your mental blocks because of how they affect you, and honestly how you've let them affect you. And I say that because regardless of what happens in your life, the one thing that others cannot control are your decisions, your actions, and your beliefs. Those are completely under your control. Other people might be able to influence them to some degree, but the ultimate decider on those things is you. And the moment that you decide to take control and say, "Yeah, she cheated on me, but you know what? I'm still here, and I can find someone that's right for me." Obviously, she wasn't the right one. Or if you didn't have the conversation 10 years ago, instead of worrying about or beating yourself up over it, say maybe it wasn't meant to be had at that time. But I wonder what I can learn from the fact that I didn't do that moving forward, and how I can conduct myself better. Or if you have that job promotion that you didn't get, maybe I didn't feel like it was a right opportunity, which means that there's another opportunity out there that will be more right for me. And it's about having that desire to look forward at things that you can attain, and using your past as a learning experience rather than a damning experience.
It's self-love. Self-love. Coming from someone from the internet or coming from someone outside is going to be a way harsher reality. And it just kind of sat with me for a second as soon as I said that. See, the world really don't owe you anything. So if they tell you something in a nasty way, whether it's the truth or it's a lie, would you rather hear it from someone else or hear it from yourself? If you look at it from that point of view, then you kind of gotta ask yourself, am I really loving myself the way that I should? Because how can I prefer to hear myself from someone else versus listening to my own self? Only you know your demons. Only you know what happened, when, and where. I would rather me deal with me than have someone else have to be the one to confront me on what I got going on. So whenever someone has a conversation with me and they just say, "Look, man," and it really just depends on the delivery. I don't care. I'm open to learning regardless where it comes from, but also at the same time, I have to be able to do it for myself. But if you're waiting and expecting other people to kind of confirm or deny and give you inspiration or answers to what's wrong with you or why things keep falling off track, that's not the way to go. I don't think anyone wants the world to tell them the truth. I think you would rather hear the truth from yourself than from anybody else. How bad do you actually want to get out of these moves? I mean, we're in the new year, right? I don't want to be the same way I was. So I need to confront my demons. I need to face them head on, and I need to do something about it. I don't feel like it's my job to tell anyone about themselves. I think the whole point of this is self-reflect, to go to that quiet place, go clean, do some laundry, whatever it is that you enjoy doing that helps you think and clear your head. Do it. Go take a walk. But whatever you do, do not ignore what you haven't dealt with. And if you have to deal with it in a way to where you're not destroying yourself. You don't have to beat yourself up over stuff. But what you should be doing is trying to understand it. Like he said, there's things that you can't change, but what you can do is understand why the pieces were set in motion the way they were. And once you understand that it is bigger than what that time frame was, it's bigger than that rage, and it was bigger than that emotional whatever it was. Once you get past that, anything that you do moving forward won't be so heavy on you. You'll be able to deal with it a little easier because what triggered you then won't trigger you now. You won't look at it the same way now. The way that you dealt with people then, you won't do it now. Or the way that you deal with your business, you won't do it the same way now. So I love how you expressed what you just laid out there, especially with the fours. Those are key points that people should really focus on and target, especially this year, especially right now, with the way that our momentum and the way that our mind is right now. Everybody is coming off of this high of new year, new me. I don't want to this. Yeah, this is the time to kind of focus and magnify that. So
One thing I want to um, comment on is something that you said about you'd rather hear it from yourself than hear it from someone else. And I think the position that I take is regardless of whether you hear it from yourself or hear it from someone else, this is a data point. And that data point is very useful. Sometimes you need to hear from someone else in order to wake up to the opportunity that there's something within you that needs to change. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, it just is. And I think it's more about instead of talking about the either or, it's really important to ask the question of where are the opportunities going to come from that allow me to investigate this further, that allow me to understand what's really going on. And I think that's the point that really makes it possible to self reflect, whether you whether you're able to reflect on your own or whether it's through the invitation of another person through their experience of you that you get to say, well, maybe there's something I have to really look at and I have to focus on. And this is one of the greatest things about being able to be in relationship with others. And I don't mean romantic relationship. I mean just developing trust through with another human being is the ability to understand that no one thinks about you as much as you do. And people are way too concerned with what's going on with them to have as much regard about you as you do. And this is a really good thing. One, because the stupid shit that you do eventually is going to be forgotten by them, unless it's really, really memorable, and they just want to remind you of it in order for a good laugh. Also, you are your own worst critic. And you're more likely to remind yourself of the things that you've done wrong and create points of shame rather than you will not always, and there's a caveat to this, than you will to reflect and change the way that you do things. It's not always the case, but for someone who is a layperson who doesn't really understand the ongoings of the emotional mind, this is largely the case. With people who have accepted the fact that when people talk to you, when people remind you of something, or when they remark on an experience they've had when they've experienced you, and especially the things where you have opportunities to grow, this is just their perception of how they've experienced you. There could be a very good reason why you're doing that, and you do it deliberately. And this is a good opportunity to be reminded why you do it. But it could also be something that you're doing because of either past hurt or past habits, or something else that's going on that has caused you to act in a way that others don't appreciate. And this gives you an opportunity to reflect on that and find out how you can do better. The point is, regardless of what someone says, they're just experiencing a snapshot of you. They don't live with you your entire life. So there's no way that they can really know the internal you. But that also gives you an opportunity to share with them who you really are, the real you, so that you can create a better dynamic with them, so that when they experience something with you that is irregular, that is negative, that makes them feel uneasy or otherwise, they can say, hey man, you're screwing up, and this is what I'm experiencing. They become much more free in being able to talk to you about things, and it can become a really good barometer. It could be a really good um, data point for you to understand. Okay, so I just have to do better in this way. I've been told that I'm messing up in this way, and I don't want to keep on doing that. So let's see how we can do better.
I like that. And actually, I have to retract my prior statement. I do agree that there has to be a certain measure of feedback, because I think when I was stating my point, I was speaking from a place of you're the one that's going to have to go to bed at night by yourself and wake up by yourself. So instead of actually trying to avoid and hide from what you know is there, just go ahead and face it head on. But then I see your point, and I understand that a lot of times, sometimes somebody might have to knock some sense into your head. I'm not physically talking about go upside your head, but hey man, this is what it is. And
Although, although we do know people, I guarantee we both know people that a good knock across the head would probably knock some sense into them.
yep, yep, yep. I know. I've seen it too. That's not where you want to go. And it might not even be to that extent. It might cost you your job. It might cost you that client, or it might cost you that project that you were working on. You never really know what you might be losing out on
Mhm.
because of not really observing and actually unpacking everything that is there. It's all at your exposure. Everything, and I like the word opportunity. Everything that you have within yourself that you know is there that is unhealthy and is probably detrimental to your growth, and you see it or you feel it, it's an opportunity instead of looking at it as a, a tomb for your mental demise or your future burial. Instead of looking at it from a dark nefarious aspect, look at it from a place of this is hardened soil. All you really need to do is take a garden hose and kind of break loose the soil and start to cultivate it a little more. And once you do that, then you're able to plant something in that. And from it, you will grow something more beautiful than you thought you could have. I see opportunity in everything now. I see opportunity in speaking to random strangers. I see opportunities in the arrogance of people. I see opportunity in people speaking negatively and operating from a place of disillusion. I see opportunities just about in everything that I watch or listen to because I'm picking and choosing from it what I want that's probably going to either help me or make me stay away from it. So yeah, that's that in a nutshell. For anyone who has a lot of weight on them and they're planning out their year and they're trying to navigate and kind of prioritize and focus on certain things that they want to get done, and they're trying to deal with themselves and deal with everybody around them. These are some pretty dope points that I would definitely take heed to, like at least meditate on it.
Mhm. It's funny. I love to read. I have read so many so many books. It's ridiculous. And one thing that I loved reading was Ralph Waldo excuse me Ralph Waldo Emerson's um, essay on compensation, also known as the law of compensation in some circles. And what it states is that everything balances out. So anytime you have adversity, there lies within it the seed, the potential of opportunity. And all you have to do is be willing to focus on it and water it in order to receive its benefits. This is something that you see in things like Marcus Aurelius or Viktor Frankl, Eastern philosophies. This idea of this balance exists everywhere. And all that it takes is the desire to find it, is the desire to, in the face of adversity, find the seeds of opportunity that exist and then focus on them and nurture them so that out of that adversity, something wonderful happens.
Well said. Well said. This is a year that I definitely need to pick up a couple more books for sure. For sure. Nothing is off limits. Not this year. I definitely need to take my mind further than where it's been. If not for anything else, just because I don't want to be stuck in a box. Oh man, I know. I'm sorry, man. I enjoyed this. I enjoyed this live, man. This was a dope conversation, brother. But I gotta cut it short. Um, I
No
thank you
worries.
for pulling up. I thank you for your feedback. We definitely gonna connect again. But I wanted to say thank you, and I will reach out to you afterwards. And thank you to everybody who pulled up in the stream. Sorry for the impromptu, but yeah, we gonna talk. We're gonna talk.
Thank you for having me again, and I look forward to the next time.
Got you. I got you. Assembly Excellence signing out. Y'all enjoy the rest of your nights. Have a blessed one.